Morning Instagram. Well, it's morning here anyhow. It's Sunday morning here in the San Diego area where I live, and I'm very excited to do this live. Now, a lot of you know I've been doing a lot of posts about wildlife. Wildlife education is kind of my favorite thing, and it's what I love to do. But there are people out there that are doing more than just talking about it and sharing information. It is actually proactive, going out and doing stuff. And the gentleman we're going to be talking today is the founder and president of Global Conservation Force. And he's about to join us now. His name is Mike. And Mike and I have known each other for a second. Mike will join us in just a moment. Hopefully the sound will pop in. Anyhow, with Global Conservation Force and with working with Mike, I've known him for a long time, but what I haven't known necessarily is all the work he's done since we worked together many moons ago. So, Mike, welcome. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Rick. How you doing? I'm doing well myself.
I am doing very well. I'm super excited for this conversation. As I was just saying to my audience, you and I have known each other for a long time. We used to work for the same organization. You went on and have been doing Global Conservation Force, and a lot of people have joined you. I've always admired from afar what you've been doing because I was still working for an organization that wouldn't let me really shine a light on things outside of that organization. So I'm super excited now that I have the opportunity to kind of sit here and chat with you about Global Conservation Force. And I just want to start right off, I think, jump right in. Give us an overview. What is Global Conservation Force and what does it do?
So we are a wildlife protection and conservation organization with a focus on applied conservation efforts in all the highly skilled disciplines required for the industry and field. So that said, we work primarily boots on the ground, um, multiple places around the world. We focus on critical poaching or conservation hotspots, and we use umbrella species or banner species to protect entire habitats and cascade downward for entire biodiversity protection. And in the mix, it includes a lot of other things.
Well, so that was a very awesome broad stroke right there. And so to take it a little more detailed in, when you talk about these certain locations on the planet that you guys are working in, and the boots on the ground side of it. You and I both know conservation can be a lot of things. It can be science, it can be working with communities, it can be anti-poaching. Global Conservation Force, if I'm not mistaken, focuses more on the anti-poaching side, but that also then involves community conservation because you rely on those communities and those spaces. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we are less doing research, more doing kind of the heavy lift aspect. So wildlife rehab, anti-poaching, counter wildlife trafficking, community-based conservation, which includes education as well as job placement and training, which is a big part. And those realms heavily go into the ranger world. Um, a lot of community access for jobs in these wild spaces. There's nothing out there besides the reserves.
Hmm.
So the connecting the community to conservation jobs is one of the most sustainable short and long term metric to change conservation outcomes for community and wildlife.
Hmm. And it's so I know way back in the day, you worked with large hoofstock and rhinos, and you started this project on your own.
Mhm.
Give a little background. When and how did Global Conservation Force get started?
So I was working as a wildlife care specialist for many years, but during the same time frame, I was also working as a ranger in the U.S. So I had so I had a foot in each side, and granted, the ranger work was not the same as what I do in, for example, Africa or Southeast Asia.
Hmm.
Um, but right around 2012, I had started to merge projects into ideas and doing more than the ex situ or out of conservation space, like out of the home habitat range stuff.
Hmm.
And through working with so many different professionals and areas of the world and specific endangered species, had a lot of communication to what was going on and what was needed on the ground, and filling the void between support for really boots on the ground conservation was a drastic need. So I ended up taking an extended leave of absence from the facility I used to work at, and went through ranger training in South Africa in the Greater Kruger National Park, working in
Wow.
between the Kruger National Park and the Greater Kruger. I got elevated in my selection after passing into a rapid response or a quick response team. Worked with all the more senior guys on more high level stuff. Um, so in a time frame like a week, I might be on 10 rhino carcass investigations with crime scenes, and chasing 2 or 3 or 4 armed rhino poaching groups in a single week that were going after different areas of rhino
Hmm.
populations, making arrests, going through a wide variety of things, and then doing standard foot patrol. And
Wow.
so took all that after getting a lot of precursor data, using a lot of my background in animal care, wildlife conservation, rehab, merging it with the ranger world, and then cherry picked a team from leading or emerging leaders in their spaces and brought them into what became Global Conservation Force, and created Project Silos. And so trialed it really heavily between 2012 and 14. In 2014, filed like the official paperwork to do a 501c3 charity,
Hmm.
and that's a long process.
Yes, it is.
So by 2015, all the paperwork was done, and I was live in the field. We had already several live projects running with long-term vetting and regional vetting, so we could be working in confidence for where we are applying funds and building projects.
Mhm. So that stretch of time then, did you that was it? Once you filed for that and got everything kind of in place, you were full-time CEO president of this new Global Conservation Fund, is that correct?
Yeah, so I was living two worlds still. I was running the organization and developing it and building it heavily, but still working as a wildlife care specialist, a senior wildlife care specialist, and spending about 4 to 6 months at a time in the field individually throughout like kind of an odd calendar rotation.
Hmm.
And those were the peak limits of like my extended leaves or time off. So I had a foot in two worlds of conservation, in situ and ex situ, full time. Ultimately, became too much to manage because the projects are too big and everything
Yeah.
was the teams are too big and the time. Um, so yeah, I went full time, leaving all the rest of it behind in 2020. Full time GCF, which we already had full-time team members by that time in GCF, but myself, I really needed to have like enough time to really focus, so we could keep growing and keep merging and keep
Right.
moving.
So that's a huge life change. That is a huge, I, hmm, I think for those of us in the midst of whether it's conservation or animal care or whatever it might be, it all makes sense. For somebody on the outside, though, that sounds like a really big undertaking, a lot of work. You're talking about global efforts here.
Yeah.
Leaving the knowledge and safety, if you will, of like, okay, I've got a job here in the United States to pursue this. Gonna get kind of personal. Why do you do this?
It's because I truly care. Um, I think the one misconception is that everybody just does this for fun, or like you do it just because you like it. Um, but the reality of like applied conservation, it's extremely difficult to survive, and I say survive, not thrive, because
Right. Yeah.
there's not even though people care, there's not abundant funding, and
Right.
even though people are concerned, it doesn't motivate people to take action.
Hmm.
So I, for many years, sacrificed pay and no benefits and no holidays and not seeing key critical moments of friends and families timelines, missing a lot of it.
Hmm.
Um, and it's very difficult. You have to be very driven to stay with it. because it's going to break you down multiple times, even though
Yeah.
you have a massive passion for it. So um, it's the passion and the care, but the true desire to see and make change is what keeps me going and why I do it.
You brought up something that is well known in the animal care world as well as conservation, that financially you tend to go without. And I like the way you
Hmm.
put it, just to survive, not even going to thrive, not even
Yeah,
shooting for thriving, it's survival. And
absolutely.
it's true. It is a challenge for many of us to make a lifelong career out of this. And I've always said when I've gone into talks that conservation is a money suck, because any other business that you want to fund or do seed money or whatever, you expect some sort of return on your investment. And the reality is conservation is a constant cost, and your return on investment is knowing you made a difference in the world, making safe spaces for wildlife and people who are living amongst them. But financially it's a bad idea. And so with that, then let's say somebody does donate to Global Conservation Fund as a nonprofit. What are the different places the money can go? What is it supporting? Obviously, the work, you just kind of explained the work of what GFC, or Global Conservation Fund, does, GCF, excuse me. But in the sense of like, okay, I want to donate, but I kind of want to know, what is it doing? What's my feel good moment for writing that check, or clicking that donate button online?
So like I like to make a joke out of this because people will say like, "Oh, give $20 to rhinos." I'm like, a rhino can't take $20 to do anything with it, right? So applied conservation really does come down to what you are implementing. Okay, so there are a lot of nonprofits out there. I'm not saying they're bad, but they take money and they say it's for rhino conservation, but it's
Hmm.
this big vague thing. To me, that's extremely frustrating.
Right.
So to GCF, we can go as high as I care about these animals, and I know GCF is on the ground and doing stuff, and I know it's going to go towards the cause. Put it into the general fund. That's our Fight Poaching, Fight Extinction, or Operation Rhino Shield. Those are our two big general funds. Now those go
Hmm.
into like all moving parts of the big plays and all the way down to the small plays of like literally buying school books for kids in rhino poaching gang neighborhoods and taking kids on environmental field trips or getting rangers boots on patrol. Um, Now, when you go into the specialized areas, GCF has four columns of conservation.
Okay.
And those four columns are important because it's education and awareness, which is like we're doing the education and awareness right now. But that goes also into like mass. We have school programs and in classroom stuff and field
Hmm.
trips and community resource development projects. So there's like a whole spectrum, sorry, of activities. Then we have our anti-poaching world. Anti-poaching is not just like pictures with guns at all. There's a massive human development, structural development, and operational development arena there, from professional legal certifications to raising training and deploying canines and training them both together, drones and technology, management structures, you name it.
Hmm.
Um, then we have counter wildlife trafficking, which is the huge darker world of investigations and tethering the demand market and the users market and going after the players and all the different layers. And lastly, we have what we call in GCF the true conservation world, the world that most of the public knows as conservation.
Hmm.
Rehab, veterinarians, relocations, biodiversity, land acquisition, all of those things. Now, you can donate into those pillars. So then you know more directly. But then because of the way we also do it, you can literally sponsor the tracking collar of a newly released black rhino on new habitat corridor property as part of our programs. And that
Hmm.
same property is being managed and watched by rangers we've trained and employed. And that same property is a buffer and a green layer to communities where we have education programs. So it's these layers where you can really go from I care or I really want to be more involved and like go directly to a source type situation.
Hmm. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And I think it's important too that you offer that, because you're right. A lot of organizations, it's kind of this giant pool that the money goes to, and it can be challenging to go, no, but my passion is this, and I really want to help that. A great example with the tracking collar, because you should mention you guys do work in Africa and Southeast Asia. I know a lot about the rhino work you do in Africa, and I know obviously then when you have rangers out there and you've got dogs out there, like you said at the top of this talk, when you focus on excuse me on that one banner species, the whole habitat benefits because you have people there doing that level of work, and it keeps out other nefarious activities as well. What is it that you all do there in Southeast Asia?
So Southeast Asia is the same as Africa. It's just not as easy to show because of the jungles, generally speaking.
Hmm.
We're still doing anti-poaching, counter wildlife trafficking, community-based conservation, education awareness, and applied conservation. It's just when you look at the habitat differences is you can't usually get a clean picture of an animal in the jungle.
No.
It's
Like there's its
usually
butt over there between those leaves.
yeah, or you just heard it dart ahead of you.
Yeah.
So like filming and doing any of like our documentation of our projects is a lot more difficult. So normally it's in like camera traps and
Yeah.
external areas of filming. The only thing is too is political sensitivities, governments
True.
and
Yeah.
government bodies. Asia is a lot more strict.
Hmm.
So some nonprofits have done amazing work and been targeted for doing that amazing work because they published it as a partner instead of letting like the government publish it as their own
Right.
solo activity and got torpedoed by that country's government. And
Yeah.
so some things we don't share, even though we have monumental projects, but it's for the safety of the team members involved,
Makes
community members
sense.
involved, and the continuance of the project. We don't need to say, hey, look what we're doing. We know what we're doing. Our donors know what we're doing. We do our updates. And so a social media post that would be super cool for 5 seconds that people paid attention to and forgot 2 days later
Right.
could put us in hot water where a government official who feels threatened um, targets, the operation.
Sure, absolutely, and that's part of the thing. I remember. I mean, gosh, I've been in this business for over 30 years now, and when I first started, there wasn't much thought on what's the immediate culture around this space where this conservation is happening. And I think
Yes,
through what you just said, it really brings up a good point that we have all the best intentions perhaps of going into a space, supporting a community, documenting it, sharing it with others so they get excited and they want to donate, because obviously that's how it works. That's how it works. You got to get that information out there for people to see what you're doing or hear what you're doing so they want to participate in supporting it in some way. But yeah, the cultural sensitivity, is that appropriate to do that, or can we find other ways? And so, yeah, great example of how we also, you take a step back from the focus on, rhino poaching or pangolins or any other species for that matter. Then you start to think, okay, well, we're all people, and people all have a different perspective on things and a different way of approaching things. Doesn't mean we don't have the same end goal, but we have to respect how others may want to or see fit to get there. So yeah, great point, man.
absolutely. And conservation is driven by people and operated by
Yeah.
people. So a lot of the assessment time frame where we're building projects. So the way, for everybody listening, the way we work is we don't go knocking on country's door and say we want to work here. We
Right.
have an insane invitation list. The invite list comes directly from high-ranking officials, community leaders, reserves, anti-poaching unit managers,
Yeah.
researchers, veterinarians. And what we do is based off of funding, priority, alignment with the pillars, in other relatable realms of our projects where we can connect blocks to it. We look at assessments and start. And when we start a project, we go in totally in a hearing and listening phase first. It's all about the notes. What's the problem? Who's involved on either side?
Hmm.
What are some of the red flags? Where have people failed in the past? What does the community feel that we can do first? What does the law enforcement feel we can do first? And then build the scope of projects from our skill sets into that, working with the community and the locals at their established pace and understanding, and then build them up from there
Hmm.
instead of coming in and saying like, you guys need to be doing and you should this. And so it's a long phase process, but it's really important in conservation because what you don't know in a lot of these spaces. They don't realize that there's like a NASA version of some of these or a SEAL Team 6 version of some of them.
Yeah.
And there's no concept of building that understanding without teaching them to crawl, to walk, to run. And it's a whole thing of like development in a natural human way to make
Hmm.
impact.
Yeah, yeah. No, really well said. And the thread so far going through a lot of this, and we know this about conservation, is that we need money to make it happen. And so I want to just take a moment and remind everyone who's either watching now or watching this later. As of the time of this recording, we're less than a month away from Giving Tuesday, and it seems weird. Here we are, early November, talking about something that happens after Thanksgiving. But the reality is, too, a lot of times for donations, you have to think ahead. Like, okay, I'm going to allocate this much money to donate, and the Giving Tuesday shows up. It's like, oh, I'll pick the closest one I just saw an ad for, or one I've done before in the past. I really want to encourage people to consider, if not Giving Tuesday, some other time or even now, to donate to Global Conservation Force, because it is one of those things where there's a lot of places out there that are good and they do good work, but it's such a big pot that your donation may or may not go to what you're hoping it does, or really create that large ripple effect to save or help wildlife. So come on, guys, go to go to globalconservationforce.org, hit that donate button either now or for Giving Tuesday, or even afterwards. Maybe you're able to do it some other time as well, if not right now. But I do want to point that out, that it is unfortunate that we always have to ask for funding, but this is not something that governments do on their own. This is not something that it just happens, and makes money. You're not living large, Mike, obviously, and the people you
No.
work with and the work for you aren't either. They have more than one job usually. This is a work of passion. It's a way of life. It's not a career, a 9 to 5 that you just go into. So, and I know too, kids are like, well, I don't have a lot of money to donate, or even, gosh, in today's economy, a lot of people don't have a lot of money to donate. Even five
Yeah.
bucks, it all adds up. The challenges the wildlife is facing in the wild didn't happen overnight. It was little bit after little bit after little bit that suddenly we realize these emergencies are happening. And donations towards conservation is the same way. A little bit can add up. And obviously, if you can do more, do more. Um, but then that leads me into my next thing, Mike. Me calling out, asking for the audience here to donate to Global Conservation Fund. Again, globalconservationfund.org, or you click on it here on Instagram and follow their stuff there. Um, if someone, let's say, has a heart like yours and mine, wants to make a difference, excuse me, in conservation, in the wild, excuse me. My brain's going faster than my mouth right now. Sorry. But we're all kind of in a financial crunch right now. The economy here in the U.S. is struggling, and it can almost feel, well, there's nothing I can do, so I'll just wait till someday maybe I can donate. I want to ask you, what do you think? What are some actual items people can take or do on their own, maybe if they can't fund or donate?
So there are so many ways to get involved, and this one's a big one to me because I think for some reason, there's a perception to be able to donate to conservation, it has to be X amount of money, or
Hmm.
it should be X amount of money. And to me, it's interesting because I that's actually a foreign concept to me. I didn't realize it until people started saying it to me. So first of all, a donation of $5, less than the cost of a cup of coffee now,
Yeah.
actually does carry weight. So the currency exchange in many of our places is usually 1 to 15 or 1 to 20 in exchange.
Wow.
So let's say $5, that's 100 in local currency, just to make it
Hmm.
easy. So it's a huge piece of like donation fuel. Now, if everybody was motivated just to do $5 and it was even a small fraction of people following social media, that's actually a lot of money coming in. And we are extremely efficient on our fund uses. So it's highly impactful. Um, so outside of funding though, what to me is a big passion is over the last 5 years, my team and I have really been working to add more layers of conservation activities that are more accessible.
Hmm.
So, not in classroom trainings, we're talking in field trainings with leading industry experts. So, let's say you're looking to get involved, volunteer wherever you can first.
Yeah.
First step, beach cleanups, trail cleanups, community projects. It doesn't have to be big and crazy. Build that resume, do as many volunteer projects as you can, work with multiple organizations. It should be free or the cost of gas.
Yeah.
Now, You can also volunteer with GCF. You can become one of the program and admin team members working in a variety of different activities. And that can get you started at $0 working in different projects. And if that's not your realm and you're already kind of past that step, or you're even working in the industry, we've created multiple professional courses. Again, they're actually taught in operational working conservation environments with real teams and our teams. So like if you're going on those, it's not like you're going to a classroom where everybody's their first time. Not to say it's scary. We take a lot of people at the beginning and the middle, and they're at their more advanced side, and we are also all in the same class. So it's great. There's multiple layers to get involved. Um, you can also do things like host a fundraiser, start a fundraiser. There's many ways to do that cheap or inexpensively,
Hmm.
so that there's something cool. Bring a community space together, and then ultimately the one that's accessible at all times. Choose more topics to learn more about in conservation, so you can be more informed about the actual happenings and the actual needs. So when people are talking to you, you're making a tangible difference in the education that you're providing.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of social media influencers in this space that have less than the experience of a high schooler in applied conservation, and they have the reach of a megaphone.
Yeah.
And there are a lot, they all mean well, but there's a lot of damage that's happening from poor delivery of content or poor information.
Hmm.
And that leads a massive wave of the public hitting the boots on the ground side and going, well, why don't you just do this? And it's like, that doesn't work.
That's not, yeah, thanks, but actually,
Yeah. So it almost adds more work to us
sure, yeah, the
in those
disinformation,
avenues.
yeah, yeah, and that is, you're right, that is part of the challenge there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I like what you said too about people can volunteer, whether it's through Global Conservation Force or even locally, whatever it might be in the sense of like here in San Diego, we have I Love Clean San Diego. It's a great example where they have beach cleanups, they have creek cleanups, river cleanups, neighborhood cleanups.
Yep.
You can join something like that in your area, and if there's not one available, you can start it, and that's impactful too.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, or there's the global side of things where you can start getting involved, educate, volunteer on a bigger scale if that's an option. So those are all great points, Mike. I appreciate you bringing those up. But again, I want to bring it around to what you said. Even $5 donated to Global Conservation Force is so impactful because the exchange of money into other countries gives it more power. And you also brought up a good point too. Do fundraisers. It's not that hard. People think, oh, well, what can I sell or what can I do? What can you see people who do a local community 5K in honor of raising
Mm-hmm.
money for something or raising awareness for something. We're heading into the holidays. One that's super easy to do is reach out and throw a holiday party of some sort that is a fundraiser. Ask everyone, bring your favorite dish to share and bring $5 for Global Conservation Fund or whatever fund that might be of interest to you as an individual. And again, you pool together that money, that then makes an impact. It does make a difference. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Point up that there is that foreign currency exchange that gives more power to that simple $5 that may not feel like enough, but yeah, it actually does do quite a bit. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. I would say to add to that too, there's no race in this. I think a lot of people feel a self-imposed race. That's one thing that I get a lot is like, how do I get to where you are? I've put
Mm.
20 years into this.
Right.
So, it's not like you're not, don't try to compare yourself to others' pace or their access. One thing about being from San Diego is there's hundreds of nonprofits and wildlife conservation efforts in Southern California.
Yeah.
So if you're really dedicated, you could actually work with 10 in a month and really gain a crazy resume.
Yeah.
And if you make it into the bigger leagues of some of the different bigger players, the exposure and the level of training and level of activity is very high.
Mhm.
Um, some people may not have that access. That's not a comparison to your success or someone else's.
Yeah.
Work at the pace you can. Set a healthy respect, like a healthy pace for yourself, and chip away at it. There's many ways to be involved, like we said, and the bigger carrot items are the ones that catch everybody's attention,
Sure.
but also those everybody that's in that arena has spent a very long time to get to that space. So
Right.
um, I also like to tell people learn skills that work in conservation that are not what you perceive as conservation. There's a huge need for like people who know all the programs, filming and
Yeah.
photography, video
Oh yeah.
editing. Um, you can be in conservation and not be like the researcher or the ranger.
Yeah.
Um, and because a nonprofit is a company, it just doesn't pay back profits to shareholders. So you
Right.
still have to make it work and be in regulation and it functions. It needs accountants, it needs web help. But how GCF offsets all of those overheads costs is we have people who volunteer their help 1 or 2 hours a week, and then all of a sudden GCF's not having to pay for a web designer, and we're not having to pay for an accountant for every day, and we're not having to do all these extra costs. So you could be an accountant, you could be a photographer, you could be a musician, um, and you can tie it back into conservation quite easily.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great point. I think that's something that's come up before in the past when I've done talks and people are asking like, what can I do? I sell insurance. And it's like, well, can you do spreadsheets? I mean, there's
Yeah,
office work that needs to be done and knowledge of how that stuff works. That yes, absolutely. And you brought up another good point too, with like videographer, filming, sound design, any of that stuff. Anything that can help get the message out, all of that stuff, you need, like you said, a regular business skill set of anybody out there could be a part of conservation without having to be a ranger in the field or do what you do, traveling the world to these different sites and getting people trained up or any of the other stuff. So yeah, great point, man. Great point. How there's so many avenues to be a part of and be impactful for
yep,
conservation on so many levels. So thanks for bringing that up.
of course. And I'd say that probably the absolute last arena, because this does come back into cost, is we do have eco tours, which are conservation focused travel. So now they are more expensive because it's abroad and there's a lot involved, but
Sure.
choosing how you travel carefully. There's a lot of greenwashing with lodges and safari camps where they say they're doing this and that, which is totally not true. And so it your travel can have a massive positive impact or a very negative impact.
Right.
So if you want to travel to ethical lodges, destinations, reserves, conservation in many places is not funded by the government and it's not given any external resource. So sometimes the self-perpetuating uh, funding is
Hmm.
actually people coming to stay at the reserve plus their nonprofit partner.
Right.
And so those are really important metrics to know for people looking to travel. It can be very hard to find that, but again, many ways to get involved.
Yeah, and I have right here on my computer right now, I have your website up, Global Conservation Force. Right across the top, there's home, about, projects, and travel with us. So, and then right down there, drop down Eco Tour Safaris.
Mm-hmm.
So if people want to learn more about that, whether they travel through your organization or somewhere else, this is an opportunity to learn how everything you do has an impact on wildlife, and you can make subtle, simple choices that will have big results in the long term and long run. So yeah, great stuff, absolutely great stuff. And I will say too, there's some awesome stuff in your guys' store. I've got my favorite shirt on right here. The protect what you love. I've always loved the stuff you guys have there. And again, buying stuff from the shop as gifts for people will also help fund the project. So
Yeah,
yeah,
holiday shopping. Holiday
yeah,
shopping. You can
exactly.
hit your favorite nonprofits.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
Rick, I got a good question for you.
What's
I
up, buddy?
think I think it's important, so for everybody listening and circling back, Rick and I have known each other for a long time. In fact, Rick and I have worked on many professional media projects in the past, TV shows, documentaries. Um, you have a tangible road into conservation, and I think it would be important for you to share for listeners too, because you and I came into the same arc but you came from a different road. So I think it's really important to share that road in because there is no like one lane into conservation or one lane
Right.
into wildlife.
Well, so what are you asking? How I got to where I am, or?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Where
Well, I
did you
mean,
start and
so
how did
I
you go in?
all my entire life was just all about wanting to be around animals. And when I found out at a young age, there was a college called Moore Park College that had this program where it trains you how to be a animal trainer and zookeeper. I'm like, okay, that's where I'm going. Went there in the early 90s, came out doing animal care, animal training. 2000, I ended up here in San Diego, hit my dream job working with animals and people. And that's what I learned in Moore Park for me was being that conduit between the knowledge of wildlife and conservation and sharing it to the public. A lot of people love to go to zoos, have a good day. They want to see some animals. They think they're cute. Oh, and which is not bad or wrong. They are cute. And other people are a little more fascinated. They'll sit in the aviary and watch birds for a longer period of time. Everyone has their own thing. But I always enjoy being able to see someone who did show interest or did have a question to sit with them and go, okay, now get this. You think that's cool about that animal, and expand their knowledge and share my passion and hopefully ignite then as they walk away, they want to learn more or do more. And that rolled into doing media work because I wouldn't shut up about animals. So I started to stray a little bit away from the animal care side and went into more of the presentation and media stuff. And that's where we started working together then is when the media stuff was really blowing up. And now I find myself in a space where I am not with any particular organization. I'm an independent wildlife educator, and I'm kind of right now finding my way. What is that going to look like moving forward? Because this is who I am. This is what I do. I want to raise awareness. I want to do things. I have responsibilities here in San Diego that won't let me travel abroad right now and do boots on the ground work. But it doesn't mean that I cannot continue to be the conduit between those who are doing the work, like yourself, or I talked to Jordan a couple of days ago too here on Instagram, and I can start helping get those stories out there and getting people curious about what it is you're doing. So that's how I ended up where I am right now. And I know other people who do like podcasts and TV shows that do not have the animal care experience or the conservation experience that you and I have, that strictly have a talent and passion, or excuse me, a talent for communications or video or podcasting, and have an extreme curiosity and passion for wildlife, and that's what they're pursuing. And that's valuable too. That impacts conservation, raising awareness, talking to people about it. Like you said too, getting the factual information, doing your homework, getting that knowledge by seeking out. So then when you do share in those platforms in those ways, it is more impactful that way too. So yeah, that's a quick synopsis of me, but this is about global conservation for us, Mike, not me.
I just think it's good because like one of the highest volume questions we get is how can I get involved?
Right.
What did you do?
Hmm.
And for me, it's important to like I can acknowledge like not everybody can be a ranger physically or language based or travel or
Sure.
cost based, and I don't want that to be the dead end for the conversation.
Right. Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
and also, not everybody is gonna have the opportunity to work at a world famous zoological facility and get through that whole entire chain and then be able to leave it and apply it to the field. So
Right.
there's a lot of different like arrows in a quiver, if you will, that can
Hmm.
still make a difference. And um, you know, it's a very unconventional field in so many ways because you're
Yeah.
just like cherry picking and working and not getting paid a lot and
Yeah.
working two or three jobs and
And volunteering. I mean, that really,
yeah,
I can definitely say from the animal care side of things and from the conservation side, it is putting in the hours of volunteering that eventually build your network of people that you will
yep,
get to know, build your skill set, and open up room for opportunity. If you just show up and go, why? Like, and you said this earlier, people will compare themselves to where you are now. Go, I want to do what you do. And it's like, okay, but it's a 20-year road.
yeah,
And I will be happy to show you and mentor you along that 20-year road, but you got to be realistic. And that's where that, like you said, multiple, small income jobs and or volunteering, no matter where you come from. I know a gentleman who was a police officer for a very long time and eventually got himself into doing zookeeper work because of volunteering at different wildlife rehab facilities and other small facilities, working up slowly and eventually being able to get to the facility he wanted to work in. And that's a great example. Same for conservation, like you said. People show up like, well, I don't have any skills in that realm. It's like, oh, but you might, and also you
yeah,
can put in some extra hours and make a difference.
yeah, and it's it's not all it's not all the bush, it's not all the jungle. So
Right. Yeah.
um, And that said, like that's where the animals are, but we're not hands on the animals. So like it needs to
Right.
be like conservation success. There's actually something from my wildlife care journey that I think is one of the most entertaining phrases that stayed with me the entire time. The more we do as humans to the animals and with the animals, the more likely it is to fail.
Yeah.
The more we leave them alone to do what they do on their own,
Right.
and we fix the human problems, the more they
Yes.
succeed.
Amen to that. Yes, absolutely. And that's why I think a lot of people sometimes they get a little too deep into the seeing the cute photos and the cute stuff, the highlights on things like here on Instagram. And I get that. I understand that we sometimes scroll because we wanted to kind of get away from the things that are heavy and hard. But the reality of conservation is, yeah, it's not hands-on and it's dirty work and it's hard work, but it's absolutely
Yeah.
work that is needed. And I think, the theme that Jane Goodall left us with, it's like every one of us has the opportunity to do something.
Mm.
And we all have an impact, but what does that impact look like? Is it a positive one or a negative one? And it's a simple shift. It's a simple activity. It's a simple thing, whether it's litter pickup or flying to Africa to stop poachers, any of that and everything in between. So yeah, good stuff,
I
Mike. Good
I
stuff.
love that quote from Jane Goodall, the impact quote, because it action is a choice, and the direction of that action has an output. So you can very easily become educated in today's space without having to pay for anything.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of actual experts that you can actually pay attention to, and you'll start to acquire the knowledge based on just the conversations and the simple Q&A and the posting. And
Yeah.
you'll very much see the difference between uh, frivolous animal posting and expert resource based application.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, good stuff, Mike. Good stuff. Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up? I don't want to take up all your morning. I know we both got stuff to do, so.
Not a problem. I was just say thank you for everybody who's listening. If you want to learn more about Global Conservation Force, I highly recommend checking out our YouTube, our website, and our Instagram or Facebook. Those are going to be the active platforms. If you're looking to get involved, there's information on our website. If you're looking to learn more about conservation and the different roles, there's a lot of different blogs on the website. So even how to become a ranger, or what does it look like to become a GCF instructor, as well as if you want to learn more and deep dive about our projects. Um, Outside of that, we have teams in multiple countries. So we have a UK team, an Aussie team, South African team. And if you think you're too far or not able to get involved, I would probably beg to differ. So there's a lot of different ways to be involved, a lot of different styles of being involved. It doesn't have to be always and every day. It could be a little here and there.
Yeah.
And truly, if you're looking to start your conservation journey, start today, start small, build the bricks, because you got to lay that foundation. Um, Work towards your big goal. Don't exhaust yourself thinking you're gonna, jump up tomorrow and
Yeah.
be doing vet work or something. Uh, but at the same time, trust the process. Keep with it. If you want it, you'll get it, and you'll
Yeah.
go for it. Other than that, the world has got its many different challenges. Conservation is still working every single day, 24/7. We're out there no matter what. Um, so if you ever need that reprieve, there's always a way
Yep.
to join us.
Yep, absolutely. Well said, Mike. Well said. Well, thank you so much, buddy. Again, I appreciate your time this morning. And what I'll do is I'll repost this over on my account. So if anybody wants to catch up, if you just logged in now to see what's going on, we've been talking for about 40 minutes or so, and it's been a great talk, very educational. And I love your work, Mike. I appreciate everything you do and your team. And it's just been amazing to see your growth and the impact that you've had over gosh, it's been well over a decade now, hasn't it? So
Yeah, yeah.
good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Thanks for the support, dude, and I appreciate you reaching out. Everybody who's tuning in. Rick and I have known each other for at least somewhere around 2012, 15-ish time frame.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think it was
Um,
2012 we first worked together. I was based at the other facility for the first part of my career, but yeah, I think it was around 2012 we first crossed paths and started working together.
that makes sense. Northern White Rhino time frame.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, if everybody's listening, check out the the interview, feel free to reach out. And thank you for the support, Rick. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Have a good one, buddy.
You too. Take
All right.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Actually, now that Mike's gone, I do want to say a couple more things real quick. He's awesome. He's so awesome in the work he does. And I know a lot of people that work with him as well. I can't say enough about the guy and his passion. And I really want to lean into what he said about not comparing yourself. He talked about these 20 years for him to get to where he is. I've also done talks to college students who they're so excited to get into this line of work and do conservation, and they see someone in Mike's position and like that's exactly what I want to do. Listen to his words and pace yourself. It's a marathon. If you want to do stuff like what Mike's doing, or what, even if you want to just do a little something similar, any big project, pace yourself. Realize it's a marathon. Realize there's going to be setbacks, but it is absolutely worth moving forward, step by step, little by little. Like he said, brick by brick to build the foundation. So I just want to add that on there. And again, if you have even just $5, I encourage you to donate to his organization. It is incredibly good and does incredibly good work. All right. Have a good one, everybody.